So a couple of years ago, I was walking my dog, and I saw this guy that I thought that I knew. And as I walked up, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy from Switchfoot. Well, I had heard that this guy lived in my neighborhood, but as I walked up to him, I said, look, man, I just want to let you know I've been a fan for 20 years. I'm going to force you to be my friend for the rest of your life. So you could either give it up now, or we could waste a lot of time, or we could just be friends now. And he started laughing. I laughed, and he was like, hi, I'm Tim. I said, I'm Kelly. I just told him that I'm a huge fan of his work and had been for 20 years. And then we became friends. And the worst thing in my mind that could happen would be that he already wasn't my friend. And, at that time. So I was living in my worst possible reality. So what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, he could say, no, I don't want to be your friend. Well, you aren't already. And so this mentality of thinking big was just something that my pops gave me, my mom gave me all the time. It was like, even though we grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment with 5 people in Lompoc, California, it was like, you could do anything that you put your mind to. But I can tell you that there's times where that mentality gets challenged a little bit, and especially when I go into the valley. You see, I remember I reached out when I started the podcast. I started reaching out to a guy named Eddie George, Heisman Trophy winner, one of the greatest running backs of all time. And people were like, how'd you find out where he was? And I was like, I saw him on Instagram, and I started reaching out to him. It took me 3.5 years, but after 3.5 years, he actually came on the podcast, and you guys can watch it and listen to it. It was amazing. But that was thinking big. But let's go to the other side. Sometimes when you're in the valley, you have the tendency to start shrinking your thinking. And that's what my pops would say to me. He said, boy, never shrink your thinking. I called him one time from Las Vegas, and I went to a payphone. That's how long ago it was. I had just gone into a store, and there was a pair of pants that was $200. And I got on the phone. I was like, Pops, I saw this pair of pants. I absolutely love them. And they were the P69s from Emporio Armani. They were amazing. Maxwell had them on the cover of, I think it was like Esquire magazine or GQ magazine or whatever it was. And I went in and I saw it, and I was like, man, I got to have these pants. And then I called my Pops. I was like, man, Pops, I don't know what to do. I tried on these pants. They're amazing, but they're $200. He said, boy, that's your problem, whether you should buy a $200 pair of pants or not. And I said, yeah, Pop. He said, first of all, son, your wardrobe is your tools, and it's like an investment. He said, there's no way that you can charge someone the amount of money that you want to charge them. You can't charge someone $200-$300 if you don't feel valuable. So he said, if you feel like $1 million when you put on these pants, which it sounds like you do, it's going to be very easy for you to charge whatever it is that you need to, because you feel that way already. So don't think of this as an expense. Think of it as an investment. And then he said, if you ever call me with something silly like this again, I won't even answer. It just hung up on me. I was like, Pops, that's insensitive. But he helped me to realize not to shrink my thinking. Well, I got a message from my brother the other day, and it talked about, in the event that God, the mountain that you're wanting in your life is according to his promises, but we're only building a molehill. We're actually not only doing ourselves a disservice, but we're doing a disservice to our relationship with God. And I asked my brother, what'd you get from that quote? Because he sent it to me, and he said, just like God has big plans, man. He has big plans. And even when you're in the valley and you start to shrink your thinking, because you start to say to yourself, if I could just do X, then I'd be fine. You see, it's in the valley where the growth happens, but it's in the valley that most of the time our thinking starts to shrink. And when I got that message from my brother, I was like, man, this is so amazing, because he's such an inspiration to me. And then I did what I always do. I took that bit of advice or, counsel that I got from my brother, and I said, I want to take it to the Word. And when I took it to the Word, it's incredible, because Proverbs 26 delivered bombs. So you need to buckle up and get this party started.
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make
shrinking thinking. See, one of my buddies, I just got a text message from him. His name is Baron Baptiste. This guy helps me with my shrinking thinking. This guy, actually, his family brought yoga to America, like actual yoga to America. And then he brought yoga to the NFL. And then, oh, by the way, he ended up on QVC. He told the story at the Vibe Room. And he ended up on QVC, and he had to sell, $200,000 in product, and he had only 6 minutes. And he did it in 2. And then he went back on QVC because he did so well, and they brought him on, and he sold over $150 million in product on QVC. Now, when I'm around my buddy Baron, my mind starts to expand. The little tiny things that I think are so massive actually become small again. And it expands my thinking, but I could tell you this, there's times where we all go into the valley, and I could tell you this too, that every single one of you that are listening right now, you have a valley in some area of your life, whether it be personal, professional, spiritual, or financial. Some place, somewhere, there's some sort of valley, and in that area, we have the tendency to shrink our thinking because we think, oh my gosh, it's dark here, I'm down in this area, maybe if I could just do X, then I'd be fine. And what God is saying is, no, the valley is where the green grows. And where the green grows, I'm getting you ready to be able to jump up that next mountain, to walk up that next mountain, getting you refreshed for it. So don't shrink your thinking in the valley. And in Proverbs 26, it literally drops bombs. So if you look at Proverbs, it goes, if you're joining for the first time, I want to tell you I appreciate you and tell you you're awesome. And thank you so much for tuning in. Also, it's an episode of Inchstones. We go about 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes 22 minutes. And it's something good for your walk or, like a little soul food for you. And we go through wisdom from the book of Proverbs, the corresponding proverb, corresponding day. And so I want to thank you guys for tuning in on that. And if you look at Proverbs, it's 31 chapters, and the first 10 are going to be loving, enticing, telling you all the benefits of wisdom and all these things. In the second 2, they start to give you a little bit of a warning, like, if you do this thing, these kind of things happen. And then when you get to the last third, or from 21 through 31, it's actually 11 verses in there, it does not pull any punches. And that's where we're at right now in Proverbs 26. This is where it's not pulling any punches. So this one drops bombs. Like Proverbs 26, when we talk about shrinking thinking, this one today, I tell you, listen with caution, because once you hear the questions, you won't be able to unhear them. And today, I wasn't ready for the questions. I wasn't ready for those things. But what God said is, when you're in the valley, I want you to ask yourself these questions. And I was like, okay, when you're in the valley and you're shrinking thinking, as opposed to getting yourself in a place where you're resting, where the valley is dark and deep, it's a place to rest, to regenerate, to climb the next mountain. And most of the time when we're on the mountaintop, we're not shrinking our thinking. When we're on the mountaintop, we're saying, what else can I do? When we're on the way up the mountain, we're saying, what else can I do? But in the valley, we're saying, oh man, if I could just do X, then I'd be fine. And God doesn't want you to be fine. He wants to bless you exceedingly abundantly more than you could ever imagine. And I want to encourage you in that. And Proverbs 26, I tell you, this is the warning, buckle up. Buckle up on this. So in verse 1, I want to thank my brother too. Actually, you know what? I should let you know exactly what my brother said. So here we go. Or exactly the quote, because I kind of killed it a little earlier. So this was the quote, and he sent it over to me. It said, we honor God by asking for great things when they are a part of his promise. We dishonor him and cheat ourselves when we ask for molehills where he has promised mountains. And so when he sent that to me, I kind of went back and forth with them, and I was just asking him what he took from it. And here's what he took from it, and he encouraged me speaking life. He said, he has promised you big things. Keep asking and continue to walk in your faith. Man, when you have something like that, when you have a brother that's encouraging you, expanding your mind, telling you, don't shrink your thinking, bro. And I want you to understand that every one of you could be that for someone today, whether it be through text, email, call, whatever it is. Don't FaceTime someone randomly. It's kind of weird. But make sure that you do. Here we go. In verse 1 and 2 in Proverbs 26, what is shrinking your thinking and where did it come from? See, when we identify something, like what is shrinking our thinking, sometimes when we're in the valley and we're tired, it could just be because you're tired. I tell you, if my wife is tired and hungry, that's the holy grail of on another level. My son, the same way. He has a tendency to get down low energy when he doesn't eat or when he doesn't rest. And he tells me things that, otherwise he wouldn't tell me. And so ask yourself, what is shrinking your thinking and where did it come from? Did it come from someone telling you that you couldn't, that you weren't enough, all these things? Did it come from God's word? Did it come from wisdom? Most likely not. So identify that. In verse 3, what are the foolish, undisciplined thoughts in your head right now? And so ask yourself, what are those thoughts? Identify them and grab a hold of them. Where did they come from? And then, toss them out as quickly as humanly possible. In verse 4, are you conversing with those foolish thoughts? Are you spending any time? Are you going back and forth? I play ping pong with my negative thoughts at times, especially when I'm in the valley. I'm tired, I'm hungry, all those things. But I want you to ask yourself, are you conversing with those negative thoughts? Because if you are, that's going to be a game that you aren't going to be able to win. In verse 5, are you battling these conversations with wisdom? Because they won't go away. Those conversations that you're having, they won't go away. We need to battle them with wisdom. We need to say that we need to call out a lie. And how can you call out a lie? By knowing truth. A lie will run from truth every single time. In verse 5, it just asks us that. In verse 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, who is the fool in your head? Is it you? Is it somebody that said something to you that was foolish? And are you honoring them? Are you honoring the foolishness in your head? Or are you the fool in your own head because you keep telling yourself things and you're honoring that? So ask yourself that. In verse 11, are you returning to silliness that you have already passed through? There's so many times where I'm dealing with the exact same challenge. My brother told me this before I got married to my wife. He said, your picker is broken. I said, what do you mean, bro? He said, you keep picking the same exact woman, but they have a different name and a different face, but they have the exact same challenges, and it's not their fault for coming into your life. It's yours because your picker is broken, and let me pick. And my brother came back home from a concert, Ziggy Marley, and he had he said, I saw your wife tonight. I was like, oh, wow, who's that? And then he said, it's Brooklyn. I said, Brooklyn's my friend. He said, your picker's broken, bro. I'm picking this time. And he picked my wife. Great choice, bro. I appreciate you. And I'll just thank you for the rest of my life because I have the greatest wife on the planet. In verse 12, are you seeking wisdom or making stuff up? When you're in the valley and you're shrinking your thinking, are you seeking wisdom to combat that, or are you just making stuff up in your head? And most likely, if you're like me, you're making stuff up. In verse 13, 14, 15, and 16, are you being lazy or are you utilizing your gifts? Are you being lazy? Laziness is not getting rest. It's like rest is a different thing, but it's laziness to say, like, I've got this gift and I'm not sharing it with the world. Are you sharing it with the world? Or are you being lazy with your gifts? In verse 20 through 23, or 23 through 22, are you adding fuel to the fire that is burning you? Oh, this one hit me hard, right? Are you adding fuel to the fire that is burning you? The fire that's consuming you, hurting you, are you adding to it? Are you adding gossip to it? Are you adding silliness to it? Are you combating it with wisdom? If not, you're adding fuel to the fire that's actually burning you while you're in the valley. And it's causing your thinking to shrink. In verse 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 is, what is the condition of your heart? You could cover it with a lot of things. You could cover it with positive sayings. You could cover it with positive affirmations. You could cover it with rituals, or you could cover it with all the routines. But God says it doesn't matter all those things that you do. That's not going to get you out of it. What's going to get you out of it is looking to the core. And what is that core? It's the heart, because He wants your heart. And when you fill your heart with wisdom and it overflows, it'll come out your mouth. You'll start speaking wisdom. You'll start speaking life to every single person around you, into every single environment. And then your hands and your feet will start following what they hear coming out your mouth. And those words will become action. And when you start to do that and you start to live out the word, what'll happen is so many people will be blessed because you're walking light and in your gifts and not shrinking your thinking while you're in the valley. You see, green grows in the valley, although too often when we're there, we have the tendency to shrink our thinking. My brother Rob told me that God has big plans for you, and God let me know that they begin in the valley. If your thinking starts to shrink, read Proverbs 26, answer the questions, accept the truth, and walk in the big plans He has for you. I want to encourage you today if you're in the valley. I want to encourage you if you're in a valley in any way, shape, or form. I want to encourage you also that we're going to be starting our Substack very, very soon. It's going to be in about a week or two that we're going to release the Substack, and we're going to be releasing all the handwritten notes for the podcast, and you're going to get a letter every week, and it's going to be in my handwriting as opposed to typed out, because I want it to be a connection point between you and I as we go through, which is going to be amazing. I want to thank my brother for the inspiration for this episode here. I want to tell you how much I love you, how much your words mean, how much your texts mean, and that you breathe life into me. And when I go into a valley, then I'll ask myself these questions again. I'll go through Proverbs 26. I'll read in that, and then I'll ask myself, and I promise you, Rob, no matter what valley I'm ever in, then I will, if my thinking starts to shrink, I will ask these questions. I will put them against wisdom, and I'll go back to the large dreams that I've had, but also that God has put in me. And so I want to thank all you guys for tuning in. It's been another episode of Inchstones. Comment, like, subscribe, share, do all the things that you know you need to do. Vibe Room is coming again soon in April. I love you all. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised.